Alright, I know it's been a while since I've uploaded a video here. It's probably been, I think it was February or something, and it's late September now. Honestly, I just didn't really have anything worth really filming. It was kind of just routine maintenance kind of jobs. I didn't really get anything crazy this summer. Had a couple Subaru head gasket jobs. But I got this car trailer at an auction, probably a month ago or something, and I got to redo the decking on it. It was usable, and then I was hauling I think it was a 92 Volvo 240. Got it up to this point, and then it fell right through, so I just had to kind of jerry-rig the steel plate on here just temporarily to kind of allow vehicles to come on and off. I would have replaced this deck the day I got it, but as many of you know, the price for wood is through the roof right now. 2x4s used to be around, it's just 2x4x8 basically, just a basic. Used to be I think it was like 260 to something like that. Now where I'm at, it's honestly closer to almost $6. So anyways, the deck needs to be rebuilt. Not doing that today. I've got some steel here and a toolbox, because basically I'm going to weld a frame to the trailer frame, and then I'm gonna use this Harbor Freight receiver mount that I have here, and I'm going to then bolt the toolbox to the frame as well as the winch inside the toolbox, and then cut a hole in the toolbox for the winch cable and the I think this is called the fair lead. That doesn't sound right though. Whatever, the rollers through the front of the toolbox. So yeah, and I just have a Harbor Freight 12,000 pound winch, and that thing's been the tits, but I've actually been using kind of this double hitch setup. So I would put this into the truck and then put the actual 2-inch receiver so I could hook up to the trailer, and then I would put the winch with the winch receiver attachment on here. And then that way, as long as it was a straight pull, it would pull literally anything up here, you know, up to 12,000 pounds. I pulled one car up here that was only on 3 wheels, and it struggled and kind of drug along, but it did eventually get up here. The problem with that though, this is extremely sloppy in there. It wouldn't have a straight angle basically when it was in the receiver. It would actually kind of tilt down, like pretty much like that, and it's just not DOT approved. I'm confident it's not. I only towed like 3-4 cars with it like that, but regardless. So we're gonna start doing some welding here, get that frame mounted up there, and I'll kind of do update videos as it goes along. Alright, so I got the 2 lower supports completely welded in here. Just so you guys can obviously critique my welds. That's just the one that I cleaned up. Otherwise, the other ones don't look too terrible, you know. I just got this older Clark 230 volt MIG welder, and unfortunately, the wire speed or wire feed doesn't do anything. If you turn it too far one way, it won't work, and whatever. And it's only got 6 different settings, so it does the job. But I could make these welds look a hell of a lot better. It's just I can't adjust the wire speed, so it kind of is what it is. So now I am basically going to put supports on the outside, one on each side. This box already has holes drilled in it, if you can see right there and there, and there's 2 more on the opposite side, and that's just basically going to give the toolbox something to bolt down into. And then for the actual winch plate over here, which I cut off the receiver portion of it, this plate, I believe, yeah, the winch mounts to these outer holes here, and then these ones out here just for the handle. So the winch is still going to mount with these outer holes, but then on these inner holes I'm going to run some bolts down through the plate through the box and then into the actual square steel tubing here. So it'll probably be more like a piece here and here, and then a piece on each end for the actual support. And then I know this D-ring is completely and totally overkill. Unfortunately, it's the only one that they had in stock when I went to the supply store. So it kind of is what it is. And then with this excess piece, I'm going to weld this pretty much in the center and then weld the D-ring just to that. I think I was going to weld it to here initially, but I actually built some stake pocket sides to haul garbage to the dump in this thing. And I know I'm going to have to modify one piece of it for the D-ring. If I were to weld the D-ring here, I couldn't use it because this 2x4 sits here and then the other 2x4s run along this beam here. So I'll kind of have to see how that turns out once I get there, or rather cross that bridge once I get there. Alright, I got the supports tacked in here. I don't know why I didn't think about this. The supports here that actually the winch are going to bolt down into are going to be plenty to hold down the box. I mean, the box is held down with maybe like 1/8 inch fasteners normally, and I'm going to be using 3/8 grade 8 bolts going through this 3/16 square steel through this plate into the box and actually into the winch. So this will kind of act as a giant washer and hold the toolbox down to this metal frame. But at the same time, I already tack welded these down. It just makes sense to have the support on the outside. I don't think this box is going to flex all that much. The box isn't doing any of the actual structural support. It's just going to be there to house the winch so it doesn't get exposed to the elements and end up getting corroded and waterlogged and rusty and what have you. And then it's also just going to be a storage for my chains and straps and, you know, a couple minimalistic tools, maybe a fire extinguisher, as well as a battery, which will act as the breakaway battery. Because right now, the wiring on this trailer didn't work, period. The brakes didn't work when I got it. And I was thinking it was something with the brake controller on the truck. It wasn't. It was the actual wiring for this thing. The previous owners had done Scotch locks everywhere. If you know what those are, I don't need to explain anymore. So I just kind of did a very quick jerry rig, soldered a couple wires in, ran some new stuff. The breakaway box wasn't even hooked up beforehand. Now the breakaway works, but of course there's no battery on this trailer. Again, that was another one of those blonde moments for me. The whole point of the breakaway battery and the breakaway box is basically the trailer is always going to be hooked up to a battery that is connected to the trailer. Normally it gets its power feed right here through the 7-pin connector. But of course, if the trailer by some accident breaks off, say the hitch on the truck is all rusty, drops off, and the chains break away as well, then this cable here will actually pull out like that, and this will remain on the truck. So you're supposed to attach this to the frame or somewhere other than the hitch, and then it's going to lock up the brakes on the trailer so it doesn't go skidding into traffic and kill somebody. Of course, since these are electric brakes, it doesn't really make any sense to have a breakaway controller once this thing breaks away from the truck. I mean, there's going to be no battery to supply the brakes. So that's why I'm also throwing a battery in the toolbox here. Plus there needs to be a battery for the winch. I can't just run it off whatever, like 16 gauge wire going off the 7-pin connector. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drill some holes here. I'm gonna drill holes all the way through on the bottom, so that way I can actually fit a socket in the bottom. Either I'm going to do that, or I also have a Milwaukee power ratchet. Basically, you just pull the trigger and it acts like the swinging arm on a ratchet, so you won't have to actually get in here. Because since the winch bolts are square, they don't actually turn. There's no way to tighten down the winch. You have to thread the bolt in from the bottom. On the bottom, honestly, I might just take my grinder over there and just notch a little square out. Just that way, like I said, I can fit a socket in there and tighten it down nice and tight from the bottom. This front one is going to be close enough to the front where you can actually swing with a ratchet, but once you get deeper in here, you're going to have just a tiny little bit to turn, and you're going to be fighting with your hands in this here. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention, the reason I went with 3/16 3x3, for one reason, I liked with the 3x3, it just sat slightly higher than the trailer deck. And you always are going to be pulling something that's lower than the deck unless you can back the trailer straight up to a ditch or something. And it's not too steep of an incline. This isn't a pivot trailer, but every little bit you raise the winch up is going to help. And according to Harbor Freight's owner's manual for the winch, it's not supposed to exceed 15 degrees up or down pulling. It can go, I think, 45 degrees side to side, but it's pretty minimal what they want you to pull above and below the winch. So that raises it above the deck. Also, I went with 3/16 because that seemed to be the thickness that the actual trailer was. And, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to even come close to reaching the winch capacity, which is 12,000 pounds, assuming you're on the last roll. But if you hook up a bunch of snatch blocks, you know, you can triple, quadruple your pulling capacity. Only time I'm ever going to be pulling something that heavy is going to be if I have a skid steer that all the wheels are locked up or something, and I'm basically pulling, say I'm pulling 10,000 pounds of something that doesn't roll, then that's where the 3/16 is going to come in handy. I'd rather have it, not need it, than have something like what is 7/32? I think that's a little less than 1/8 of an inch, but don't quote me on that. Say I have 7/32 or something less than 1/4 of an inch thick, then of course it can just bend the shit out of the metal frame if you have thin enough sidewall, and then you got to redo everything. And this was like $140 in steel. So I not only is it just this, I also have another 8-foot chunk over there. It was 24 feet total for like $5, 30 cents a foot, which ain't too bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill some holes and weld the rest of this up here, and then start bolting everything down. Okay, I got all the holes drilled out. I knew something looked off. This support on this side that goes and runs that way, I had tack welded it onto the wrong side of the line, so now everything's spaced out. I had the holes lined up on this side, marked them through the top. The previous owner had drilled holes through the bottom of the toolbox, and then when I was over here, there was nothing underneath there. So I ground that off, moved that over, and I just got the bolts running through the thing. He didn't used to have these bars on the inside of the toolbox. He used to have them on the bottom. And I'll tell you, if you look at how straight that is, it's about as straight actually going through the piece of square steel tubing or whatever, aluminum. So he must have been hitting the sauce pretty hard when he decided to modify this thing. So they're good enough for now. I also got the 4 holes drilled out, and you can see where that actual winch plate is there. I have to cut a square out, or a rectangle here now, once this piece bolts up to that thing. So I'm gonna have to take some rough measurements, and this will probably stick out an inch or so through the actual opening. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cut out now, so I can actually try fitting the winch. Because of the way the cable is, I have to be able to feed the cable through and then set the winch down onto the actual plate. Alright, I'm gonna have to cut it short here. I got, you know, 99% of the way welded. I forgot to turn my gas on for these 2 welds, so I'm just gonna have to grind those down and redo those. But unfortunately I ran out of welding wire right there, so this piece over here is just tacked on 2 different places. In theory that would be good enough, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. These things weigh a hell of a lot. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm not gonna guess how much that piece weighs there, but you grunt pretty damn hard lifting it up. and I had that tiny little piece land on my foot, and it's already showing bruises less than 30 minutes later, and it's just aching. I'm limping everywhere I go, every other step. So I don't want this to fall off. I don't want some piece to fall off and end up going through someone's windshield, because it would surely kill them. Plus, not only that, I still have to weld on the D-ring. I have to cut this piece to, I think I marked it like 17 centimeters or something like that, because that's just where it lined up on the tape measure instead of inches. So I got to weld that on, weld the D-ring on, bolt the box down, and then I did get it notched out here. I'll get a better clip of it, but the rollers there fit absolutely perfectly. I mean, it looks, I'm impressed with how good it looks. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to look that good. So yeah, that's just where I'm going to have to stop here for tonight, and then I got to go pick up a Suburban tomorrow, which will be a parts car for that 2500. And yeah, I got to go pick that up. It's like 2.5 hours or 2 hours away or something, and I gotta go pick that up around 2, so I'll have to get started on this about 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'm gonna run off to the fleet store here and get some welding wire and start this again tomorrow morning. One other thing I'm gonna quickly show here is that I am getting good penetration, even on the one that I didn't use, or I didn't have the gas turned on. But you can see here the discoloration and everything. I'm using .030 welding wire with CO2 gas, and I don't have it maxed out. When I did this little D-ring here, which was before I had this whole setup and I had the winch on the double receiver thing, I actually melted through the little D-ring, and this is just a hook that you get on most newer vehicles. Instead of having a tow hook, they kind of have a plastic cover you pop off, and then you thread this in. And then a recovery vehicle would hook up there. But I'm getting good penetration anyways, so that's really what counts. It doesn't have to be pretty. Alright, I think I got it all pretty much finished up here. On the bottom, to get access to the bolts that go in the back of the winch here, I just took the grinder and cut out a little square. It's still basically C-channel, and I mean, I don't know how many tens of thousands of pounds it would take to bend this metal. The welds are going to break before the metal bends, so I didn't see any problem cutting a little relief in that. But there you can see, I thought about it last night. I want to say it's called the fair lead, but even then I think that's the end of the winch. I'm not 100% sure on that. But you can see it absolutely takes up almost no space in there, which is perfect. I think the only other things I'm going to do to really modify this, I mean, this isn't complete. This is just how far I am right now. I have to go all over town, and I actually have to grab a trailer and winch it onto this one because there's no hitch, and that's a few miles away. And then I got to go pick up a Suburban and whatnot. So I got to vacuum all these metal shavings out here, but basically I'm probably going to get rid of these square aluminum tubes here. There's really no reason for them. They just take up space. I'm still going to keep the 4 bolts in each corner, but I'm just going to get shorter bolts. And yeah, I need to still throw a battery in here, like I said, as well as build a couple little containers in there for storage for straps and whatnot. But once it's completely closed, it doesn't look half bad, honestly. I mean, some of my welds down here are horseshit, mainly because I did run out of .030 last night, and by the time I was going to get to the store, they were going to be closed, and since I had such a busy schedule today, I really didn't have time. So I did some digging, and I found, I think it was 024 or 025. I can't see, but it's a little bit thinner than the 030 anyway, so you just basically have to run a bead and a half or 2 beads to kind of get the same amount. But yeah, everything on here is welded up 100%. If I really wanted, I could do welds on the fronts and back of each of these things, and you know, maybe I will. It's just more so I wanted to get all the important stuff welded in case I ran out of welding wire again. So yeah, I don't know, I'll see if I end up posting this video in the next couple days. I won't do any more modifications. I'll kind of have to see how long it's running. I think it's around 20 or 30 minutes now or something. But I might just do a part 1 and part 2 and kind of, like I said, show some footage of actually making some things. I didn't want to end up ruining the brand new GoPro I got here. I've heard of guys getting weld splatter on the camera, and I paid $350 for this, so I'm sure as hell not going to put it near the welder or the grinder. So all right, hopefully I can get some footage here. It's kind of doing the shitty drizzle, can't make up its mind if it wants to rain or not. So yeah, just an update on the Toolbox winch combo here thing, whatever. I haven't come up with a fancy slick name for it yet. I'm basically just running jumper cables to the battery inside the truck while it's running. This battery here, as you can clearly tell, has seen better days. It was a phenomenal battery, but I quit using it for maybe a month or two and kind of used it to jump vehicles here and there, and I would always charge it, but I don't know, it just quit out. What I really need for this thing is a deep cycle marine starting battery. I had stopped at Costco and they weren't too expensive, but I couldn't get any help figuring out where to actually buy one because they were after the checkouts near the service center, but there was no one at the service center. So regardless, I towed back this 90 something, no idea what year, can't even remember, GMC Suburban to actually be a parts vehicle for this truck here. And the winch had absolutely no problems whatsoever. Yeah, I just pulled it up. I had the wrecker chains on it up until it got up to this point, and then the wrecker chains weren't short enough, so I just hooked around the tow hook and then sucked it in a little bit, used these lasso style straps, which I love them. People would complain on the reviews saying that they would come off or come loose, but I mean, you really just got to wrench them down tight and they're not going anywhere. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the little winch here set up right now. So yeah, it's working out. All right, we're gonna try out this tripod I finally got, which actually turned out to be pretty nice, that I ended up getting from an auction. I'm gonna be replacing the deck on my car trailer today. I think I mentioned this car trailer a couple times in other videos. It is technically still usable, but if you see the spot right over here by my grinder, there is a pretty big hole in it. It started off as just a very, very small hole, obviously. I mean, it was rotten in that spot from collecting water over the years. And I was winching a Volvo up onto it to deliver that to someone, and the wheel just decided to go straight through the floor. So I took this steel plate right here and ended up just kind of temporarily tack welding it to this piece that's on the ground, which was attached. That's all I've done so far, is just cut that off to remove the boards and make installation a little bit easier. And that worked as a temporary thing, but the way lumber prices are right now, it just didn't really make sense to rebuild the deck trailer. I ended up going to a local lumber yard and asked them if they had any 1.5" by 6" or 8" by about 16 foot. And he said he didn't have 1.5", but he did have full 2" which I kind of really wanted 1.5" just because that's what was on here. And obviously, since it tucks underneath the I guess this metal lip right here, it's supposed to be 1.5". Anything more than that, and it wouldn't fit under the lip. I'm still going to have it fit under the lip as well as screw it to the actual steel angle iron that goes underneath. But I'm just going to have to rip, you know, 1/2 inch or something off the edge that tucks underneath the channel in the back, and then as well as the channel up front. The only downside, all the wood is right over there. The only downside is that some of it is, it has a lot of live edges on it. They weighed quite a bit, and the guy was in a rush, so I didn't bother to check, and obviously I wasn't going to flip and inspect every single one. They were, let me just say this, they were 16 bucks a piece. You don't complain at 16 bucks a piece when Menards wants green treated, same exact thing. It's actually, well, it's smaller. It would be, I believe it's 1.5 by 7.5, if I remember correctly, for a quote-unquote 2x8. For a green treat 16 foot, they want like $42 right now. And same thing with Home Depot, $45. Same thing with Lowe's, like 40 something. And not only that, you just can't find them anywhere because lumber is in such short supply right now. Well, allegedly, that's bullshit. It's just purely because it's the stuff that's stamped with the approved for home built use. I mean, this stuff back in the day was, but you know, private lumber mills aren't really having any problems right now getting lumber. It's just a lot of people are stuck at home with the pandemic right now and kind of doing renovations and fixing up shit. So I guess it is technically in short supply, but not to justify the price that it's at. So anyways, one of the other downsides to this wood here is that it is a full 2 inches, but I took some measurements, and some of them are a little bit closer to 2 1/4. Some of them are 2 1/4. Some of them are a hair over 2 1/4. They're all at least 2 inches. I don't have a surface planer. Otherwise, I would run them through and make them all one uniform flat height, because that way you have a flat car deck. And you'd be surprised at how much of a bitch it becomes having a 1/4 inch sitting a little bit higher. And even if I got one of the hand planers and ran it across once it was all said and done, and I could put the thicker ones in the middle so I don't risk nicking the metal frame on the outside, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. You know, I don't know if a hand planer is going to have the, I guess the oomph, I should say, to do 3 or 4 16-foot long boards. And they're not anything hard, they're just basic pine, but that'd be a hell of a job versus if I can find someone with the surface planer. You know, the other option too would just be to not use the couple that are a little bit too thick and then just go back. He only lives 15-20 minutes away from me, and I can just go back, get 90% of the trailer put together, and then get an extra 2-3 boards, and just keep the boards that are a little bit too thick for another project, and just kind of take the blows, I guess, and learn from my mistake, and next time be sure to bring a tape measure and measure the thickness. As for width, some of them are 6.5, some of them are 8.5. It's kind of all over the place, but they're roughly all 8 inches. But I think that's also partially reflects the price, you know. Like I said, $16 a piece. You can't complain too much. It's no one's fault but my own, basically. So yeah, we are going to start removing the actual wood here now, since I have this back channel off back here. It is Torx bits that are holding the screws in. I don't believe they're self-tappers. I think they're just pre-drilled holes. The thing is, living in Minnesota, Torx bits, unless they're inside, there's really no chance in hell of getting them out. This wood is so rotten though. I'll kind of walk over here and just show you an example. This board right here is the board that actually broke, that has this opening right here, and you can just lift it out. And that was, I haven't done that before. I'd slightly lifted up on it, but we'll try another one here. Well, that one's in there a little bit, but yeah, that one. So odds are, more than likely, I'm going to have to rip up as much as I can and the ones that I can't get out with a screwdriver, I'm just going to have to take a grinder, cut them off as flat as I can to the actual piece that it screws into. But I am pretty much going to this expecting I'm going to have to cut more than 3/4 of the screws out. Well, that one started to turn, but it sheared right off. Thankfully, it sheared flush. So, I don't know. It might be easier to just rip them up and cut them out. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend so much time picking the dirt out and blowing it out, it's just not worth it. And I'm obviously not going to be reusing these screws anyways, so there's no point in wasting time. Hell. Yep. Well, it's 2 for 12, and the rest, yeah, about that. I don't know what the easiest way to do this is. Alright, I think I got it all pretty much finished up here. On the bottom, to get access to the bolts that go in the back of the winch here, I just took the grinder and cut out a little square. It's still basically C-channel, and I mean, I don't know how many tens of thousands of pounds it would take to bend this metal. The welds are going to break before the metal bends, so I didn't see any problem cutting a little relief in that. But there you can see, I thought about it last night. I want to say it's called the fair lead, but even then I think that's the end of the winch. I'm not 100% sure on that. But you can see it absolutely takes up almost no space in there, which is perfect. I think the only other things I'm going to do to really modify this, I mean, this isn't complete. This is just how far I am right now. I have to go all over town, and I actually have to grab a trailer and winch it onto this one because there's no hitch, and that's a few miles away. And then I got to go pick up a Suburban and whatnot. So I got to vacuum all these metal shavings out here, but basically I'm probably going to get rid of these square aluminum tubes here. There's really no reason for them. They just take up space. I'm still going to keep the 4 bolts in each corner, but I'm just going to get shorter bolts. And yeah, I need to still throw a battery in here, like I said, as well as build a couple little containers in there for storage for straps and whatnot. But once it's completely closed, it doesn't look half bad, honestly. I mean, some of my welds down here are horseshit, mainly because I did run out of .030 last night, and by the time I was going to get to the store, they were going to be closed. And since I had such a busy schedule today, I really didn't have time. So I did some digging, and I found, I think it was 024 or 025. I can't see, but it's a little bit thinner than the 030 anyway. So you just basically have to run a bead and a half or 2 beads to kind of get the same amount. But yeah, everything on here is welded up 100%. If I really wanted, I could do welds on the fronts and back of each of these things, and you know, maybe I will. It's just more so I wanted to get all the important stuff welded in case I ran out of welding wire again. So yeah, I don't know. I'll see if I end up posting this video in the next couple days. I won't do any more modifications. I'll kind of have to see how long it's running. I think it's around 20 or 30 minutes now or something. But I might just do a part 1 and part 2 and kind of, like I said, show some footage of actually making some things. I didn't want to end up ruining the brand new GoPro I got here. I've heard of guys getting weld splatter on the camera, and I paid $350 for this, so I'm sure as hell not going to put it near the welder or the grinder. So I actually don't have any demolition blades, or wood blades rather, for this Sawzall. So I just grabbed, where the hell I put it? I already put it in here. I just grabbed the most aggressive, whatever you call it, metal blade that I have here, which is 10 teeth per inch, which should in theory end up cutting it. All right, I got the deck completely stripped off here. I just ended up on the screws that were stuck behind that the wood wasn't rotten enough to end up pulling the boards off. I was actually able to either break the bolts off or break the heads off. And sorry about all that noise. I got a new puppy here and he's trying to play with the Great Dane. So anyways, let me take care of that. Cooper, Cooper, Cooper. Yeah, for those that want to see him, he's similar to, if you guys, the maybe 3 people that watched my old videos. I had a dog named Buck, and he was a shepherd pit bull boxer mix or something, and he ended up passing away, or rather I had to euthanize him earlier this year. I think it was June or July. I think it was July. No, wait, May, June. Yeah, I think it was July, but it was July. I had to put him down. He ended up having stomach cancer, as far as I can tell. Unfortunately, that was just something that popped up out of the blue. So enough of dwelling on that. So anyways, I got a dog very similar to the old dog, which was named Buck. This one's just a shepherd pit bull mix. So yeah, I didn't get him to replace the old dog, but I loved the old dog so much. It's kind of that thing, you kind of find your breed that you like and then you stick with them. So anyways, I got the like I said, I got the deck off here, and I did rewire this trailer about maybe less than a month ago, and I did not fully rewire it. I basically removed all the places there were Scotch locks. The wiring on here is pretty damn janky. It needs to be redone. The other day when I was coming back with the 98 Suburban, I was coming up to a stoplight and the trailer brakes just quit, just out of the blue. I have not checked if it's a fuse. I haven't checked if it's the pads. I haven't checked anything like that. I just know the trailer brakes just quit working, just abruptly. It was one sudden big pulse of brakes and then nothing. Could be wiring, but it needs to be rewired, and the way this wiring is routed on this trailer, it just makes sense to do it now. So before I end up putting any of the decking on here, I'm going to go ahead and start stripping all the old wiring off and then rewiring it so that it will last more than a year before it needs to be redone. In theory, the way I do it, it is a lifetime thing. It's basically completely enclosed, soldered connections everywhere, dielectric grease on every connection, no Scotch locks, and it's like triple taped and protected from being rubbed through. So he's at that age where he'll chew on, I mean, literally anything. He chews on my metal desk in my room. He'll chew on plastic, rubber, he'll chew on your ears, he'll chew on his own tail, he'll chew on everything. And I've got a few different toys for him, but he, I don't know, sometimes he just prefers something else, you know. One thing he is good at, though, is pulling up weeds. He loves to attack plants. Not sure how I feel about that come gardening season next year. Alright, I just got all of the remaining deck screws basically ground all the way off and got every single one of them ground flat. Just because I've been walking in between the rungs here, as stupid and dangerous and childish as that is, I'm still doing it, and I'd rather preemptively protect myself before I inevitably biff it and end up impaling myself. So I got all that ground off. Something I don't normally see a lot of guys do when they do any videos on car trailers or anything like that. I was actually planning on building one for the longest time, just because I didn't want to pay $2,000, $3,000 for one. I think I paid like $1,800 for this at an online auction, and after fees and registration or something, or actually I think it was $18 with fees and registration. Let me see if I can find the make and manufacturer tag. Okay, so I'm sure, let's see, get you in as close as I can. That's where the tag is on this one, and it's manufactured by ABU Trailers in Dwight, North Dakota. It has the gross vehicle weight and then 7,000 pound capacity, which I'm assuming that means these are just 5-lug wheels and tires. So it's basically two 3,500 pound axles. Now technically that does not mean you can tow up to 7,000 pounds on this. I think the first number there, which was something like 3,200, was indicating how much the actual trailer weighs without any sort of cargo on it, and then you can tow up to 7,000. At least that's the way it was explained to me. So you basically have to take the 7,000 minus the 3,200, whatever the weight of the trailer is. So technically this thing can tow up to 3,800. But I'll tell you right now, the way these trailers are built, you could easily haul a Bobcat on this, no problem. I mean, I hauled that half-ton Suburban back there, and the springs weren't even squishing down that much, you know. Which I did fuck up the fenders hauling a trailer that didn't have any wheels and tires. I had to just winch it up. But since I have to redo the brakes anyways and inspect those, I'm going to just pop the fenders off and pop the wheels and tires off and then hammer it out from the inside and kind of try to straighten them back out as best I can. But getting back to what I was saying, I am going to take some measurements for anyone who wants to make their own car trailer. I've known a lot of guys I've watched on YouTube who always say they made their own car trailer and was it worth the hassle? No, not at all. And then I've had guys, you know, where they say absolutely don't buy, you know, build it. And when you really look at it, there's not that much to it. And it kind of depends on how cheap you can get the steel. The wood, like I said, I got 10 boards from a lumber yard. They're 16 foot long, and they're actual full-size 2x8s. And like I said, some of them are more than 8 inches. So I have 82 inches from this outside edge right here to the outside edge over there. So basically 81 and a half roughly in between the inside edge of the trailer. So I just say 82 inches is usable because the fenders are mounted on the outside. And I haven't had really anything I haven't been able to pull. The one thing I would wish, though, is that I had gotten a deck over, which basically means the deck is built over the wheels. The problem with that is that it sits that much higher. This trailer right now, let me grab a tape measure here quick. So this trailer right now basically sits about 21 inches off the ground, and I'll measure the back here too. 22. So we'll just say, just to be generous, 22 inches off the ground. And of course I've got the front end lowered a little bit, just so it's kind of sitting level. But in reality, the back of the trailer is going to be dipped down a little bit more, so it makes loading things a little bit easier. The winch isn't trying to pull it up such a steep slope. Because when you think about the ramps coming out here, the ramps are, I want to say they're like 5.5 feet or something. Almost 5.5. They're 64, so just basically 5.5 feet. And so if you take 64 here and put it like this, you see it's not that steep of a slope for the winch to get things up or for vehicles to drive up. Which, when you get vehicles that, like cars especially, Hondas and Toyotas, that ride a little bit lower to the ground, or Lexuses or whatever, you end up running the risk of damaging the front bumper cover, driving it up, winching it up, driving it off, winching it off. However you get it on and off, you run the risk of damaging the bumper. So with the very shallow slope that the ramps have, that really helps negate that. And there has been one vehicle, and it was kind of extreme circumstances. It was an abandoned Ford Fusion that I had bought just specifically for parts, or to part it out. And I had a car dolly which sat even lower to the ground than this, and it had ramps, and it was a tilt deck, and that was still too steep because the suspension, it had been abandoned for 5-6 years, so the suspension was completely shot. It was almost bottomed out on the wheels and tires, and all the tires were flat. So I had, I mean, maybe 4.5 inches, maybe 4 inches of actual clearance. And that one I did chew up the front bumper cover getting it on the dolly. With the trailer, I think I've had one time where, just to be safe, I threw some 4x4 blocks kind of at the bottom of the ramp, just to extend the ramps that extra foot or so. But like I said, I'm going to get some measurements for anyone who wants to build their own trailer. Personally, I got a good deal on this trailer. I have no problem with the price I paid. I was going to buy something with 8,000 pound axles, which I believe were 8 lug wheels and tires. The problem you run into that, though, is yes, it's overkill, and yes, you can tow pretty much anything. That's the problem, is yes, it's overkill. You end up really dropping your gas mileage. It's going to weigh quite a bit more than a 5 lug, and if gas mileage isn't a problem to you, well, yes, it's a better built trailer. They have a little bit stronger, beefier bearings in there, but you're going to be doing a lot more maintenance on it, essentially. Plus, then you end up coming close to that 10,000 pound DOT limit before you have to pull into the weigh stations, at least in Minnesota. So it's kind of one of those things. I really wanted the other trailer, but this one I think was a foot shorter, like $700 cheaper, had 4 matching wheels and tires. And I'm not usually a picky guy about that, but you know, when you're paying however many $100 more for another trailer, you kind of want matching tires. I mean, it doesn't make a difference at the end of the day, but it's that thing of, it's always going to bother you, you know. So anyways, I got a good deal on this one. But I will take measurements for anyone who'd like to build their own, and I can kind of give some advice of whether or not it's worth it. Personally, if I hadn't gotten this one, I absolutely would say build your own if you're a good welder. For example, I got to put cavity wax in these things yet and paint them. Some of the welds I have here, I did get extremely good penetration. I think it was actually this one, I had it turned up a little bit too high on the amperage, and it was melting away the steel. And this is 3/16 sidewall, so I mean, you're not really going to be going much more than a 1/4 inch for a car trailer. But if you have an arc welder, I think they pretty much arc welded everything on this thing, because that's when you get into a little bit heavier duty stuff. But basically, if you have a chop saw, an arc welder, the basic minimum welding equipment, and a little bit of know-how and some axles, you can build yourself a car trailer in, I'd say, like 4 to 5 days if you were working on it nonstop on your own. You know, 6-7 hours a day. This thing took me, I think it was, like 4.5 hours to build or something, cutting, assembly, everything. And that's because I did not have a chop saw that would have sped up and probably cut off an hour or so off cutting. The other issue I ran into is not having a plasma cutter and having issues with the welder. I got to get a different welder soon. But with the plasma cutter, I could have cut out notches for the bolt holes. But otherwise, this thing's been holding up phenomenally. The only thing I did is I jackknifed. I didn't see it. This is an aluminum thing, so it dents pretty easily, but that'll pop right out with a hammer. But otherwise, it's been working really good. So, like I said, I'm going to run into town here, get some wire, and start to rewire this thing, and I'll get some footage of that. And then not going to even touch the decking until the wiring is completely done. And if I see any cracks in anything here, then I'm obviously going to weld it and reinforce it. But pretty much in order, I'll do wiring, then wheels and tires, got to take those off, pop the dents out, check the brakes, put everything back together, and then put the actual wood decking back on, and then it should be all good to go. So it'll be a couple-day project here anyways, since I kind of take things slow when I work on them. Okay, I can't really find anywhere that has just a roll of 7-pin wire. I've gone to a couple different places like Fleet and Tractor. Well, I don't have a Tractor Supply, but basically that's what L&M Fleet Supply is. It's kind of a Midwestern tractor supply. But I can't find anything. I basically just need a 20-foot long chunk of this wire, and that's it. I don't need the plug. I don't need a junction box. I don't need anything. Truthfully, I'd rather build my own wire harness. Like I said, I mean, you can see where I did my stuff. And like I said, it's not fantastic. It was a very quick, temporary, just get rid of all the Scotch locks and crap that they had. All the connections that I made are soldered, except you do have the connections every now and then with these kind of plastic junction boxes, and that's just begging to get salt and corrosion and shit in there. So in theory, I would take trying to think of what gauge. I'm not good with guessing wire gauges, but I want to say this stuff I have right here is 12, and I don't like to go any smaller than whatever size this is. I'm not saying whatever number, just I can tell based on the feel. You know, this trailer wire stuff here, the kind of universal stuff, is kind of chintzy, and it's more so like 50% insulation and 50% wire than what it's supposed to be, which is like 10 to 15% insulation. So you strip it back and you take off half the wire, and then it can only hold 5 amps, and you're popping fuses all the time and you can't figure out why. So anyways, I would like to just take 7 different colored wires and make my own harness, but I don't have 7 different colored wires in good wire of good thickness. All I have is red and black, so I might just have to make it all out of red and black and just deal with it later if I ever have to troubleshoot it. Last place I'm going to check will be tomorrow. O'Reilly's usually has some good Dorman wire, like in 100-foot rolls for a pretty reasonable price. So I'm going to stick with red and black, obviously. And when I jump wires over, the main wire harness is going to come along this side and then basically split off right here to where it runs to tail lights, and then tail lights over there, and kind of run along the rest of the trailer. That I'll just use red and black for. But for when it actually comes to where it connects off the main harness and running back, you know, I'm going to have, I think it's, don't quote me on this, I'm just going off memory, because I don't do much for 7 pins. I mainly do 4-pin trailer wiring. I know brown is tail light, white is ground, green and yellow are left and right, and I remember GR green right and YEL yellow is left. I believe red is for accessory for charging the battery, and blue is usually brakes, and then I think occasionally there is a black for backup lights, which this trailer does not have, so we're gonna have to see if I can find anything tomorrow. All right, it's been a couple days. I've been extremely busy with working on people's vehicles and replacing head gaskets in cars that I haven't really had time to work on this thing. But I have to go pick up a vehicle in 2 days down in the city, so I absolutely need to finish this. I didn't have time to do any sort of rewiring or anything. I had plans to, but I am just going to have to figure out why the brakes aren't working, and that's it. All the other lights and shit work just fine. It's just the brakes just quit working, and I would have rather, like I said, rewired this to where it'd basically be good for life, but I just don't have the time. I can always do it later. I don't have to do it once the deck boards are still off. But back to the point here. I did some measuring on the boards. I don't know why I didn't do it at the lumber yard, but I thought one of them was 1 7/8 inches, and then 6 were 2 inch, and then 3 were like closer to 2.5 or something. Remeasuring it, I had, was it 7 that were 2 inch, and then 2 or 3, I believe, that were oversized. I put the oversized ones on the outside edge here, and then I think I put one on the outside edge over there. And the ones that were showing still some of the live edge, I put right in the middle down here, just because they're obviously not as thick as the other ones. Once everything is screwed down here, you're not going to really be able to notice a 1/4 inch difference in thickness in one of the boards. In a perfect world, I would have planed everything and made it just one same size all the way around, whether that be 2 inch or 1 7/8 inches or 1 15/16 inches, whatever. I don't have a surface planer. I'd asked to borrow my grandpa's, but he was being kind of a pill. He wanted me to bring all the boards out there when really I only needed to surface 3 of them because they were oversized, and I told him, well, you know, if possible, I'd just like to borrow the planer. Well, you know how old folks are with their tools, so that turned into a whole discussion, and then just kind of decided against it. It wasn't worth the hassle to haul 3 16-foot boards up there, because I don't have any way to haul them unless they're on the trailer. And sure, I could have taken the trailer and just kind of temporarily strapped some of the boards down, but then you know damn well that would have turned into a conversation. So yeah, anyways, I'm not getting much footage of the actual work here. It's just kind of what it is. But like I said, I'm gonna get dimensions and stuff and post them up in the video, and then kind of go over roughly what I did here. So the only thing I have to do now is basically up front here where the boards tuck under. I just have to basically mark out how far it is inside here and kind of notch that out, and I'm just going to use my chainsaw for that. Get it good enough and then get it tucked under there, and then once the fronts are all tucked under, I'll take my measurements for the back and see how much I need to cut off, and then I also have to tuck the back And then that will, in theory, be good enough. I shouldn't have to do any sort of deck screws, but I probably still will, just because the guy told me these boards are still green. So they are going to shrink, they are going to bow, they are going to, you know, do their stuff. And I kind of want to minimize any sort of bowing or warping or anything if possible. So I just went along, and where there was a kind of a runner of steel going across of angle iron, I just marked with a white line. And I don't want to reattach where there were already screws, just because, knowing my luck, I'll drill through the board and I'll end up hitting half of the bolt basically while I'm trying to drill through the angle iron, and then I'm going to have a hole in the wood and it's just going to look like crap. Which, yeah, I mean, it's a trailer deck, it's going to get abused, but I'd like to keep it as nice looking as I can for as long as possible. Oh, plus making a video with him is just about impossible. So you'll have to forgive me for that, for not getting, like I said, as much footage of actual work. Alright, let's see how I got fairly close, or just eyeballing it. I'm going to hit it with the chainsaw sideways now and try to clean that up a little bit. Cooper, come here. To grab a hammer, I think. Yeah, it's still got a ways to go. Alright, so hopefully you can see there, it's sitting flush up top, and it's probably got an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch still on the bottom. In theory, I could bevel this, and I mean, I don't know what purpose that would serve other than just taking more time, basically. I got to do that style cut 19 more times, and I also have to cut on the back end back here. Right here is basically the end of the trailer, so I have to basically mark it, cut it off, and kind of figure out where because this is the top here, and this piece right here is actually what was welded right here. So I got to figure out how far this overlaps, kind of subtract, add and subtract, so when I put that piece on and weld it, it'll be tucked under the lip, just like that one. But yeah, I just got to rinse and repeat that, like I said, 19 more times. All right, I got 2 of the boards notched out here, and then I had to go run errands, of course. The hardware on the left is the old hardware. It's pretty fine threaded. Had a T30, was about 2 inches long or so. The new stuff that I got, I tried to get this bolt. I couldn't find it anywhere at Fleet. It's a much more coarse thread. Still the same thing, T30. I could have got something that was about this thread, about 2.5 inches with this kind of head, but it would have been a Phillips. And I kind of thought, with the amount of torque that's going to be getting applied to these things, there's no way that that Phillips isn't going to just strip out immediately. So still have to notch out the other remaining 8 boards, but I got them marked out. They're going to be sitting flush at the front, and then when it comes to the rear, basically where this weld bead stops right here is where the that little channel there is going to end up sitting. So, you know, I'll have a good, you know, basically fingers width of kind of a steep little slope right here. So I might, once this is all said and done, take the chainsaw and kind of notch this at like a 45, just that way. Winching anything up that doesn't roll perfectly easily, doesn't have to go over 2 big humps. But at the same time, coming off the ramp, I can't really make that any smoother. And I mean, so that little notch isn't going to make a huge difference, basically, is the point I'm trying to make here. All right, I got all the boards cut to length as well as notched out on the back and the front, and the fronts are all tucked in. It's a nice tight fit. You can kind of see, if you look really closely, the difference in height between a couple boards, and it's mainly just these 2 boards here, and then I think, yeah, this outer board over here. Not a huge deal. Also, this one, there's a pretty significant difference at the back, but that's just because this is one of those boards that had the live edge on it still, so it wasn't a perfectly square bottom. It kind of had this sort of a curve to it, and of course that's why I was thinking it was 1 7/8 inches, because it is 1 7/8 inches at the back here, but then once you get up to, like, say here, it's like 2 inches, and then it's 2 inches the rest of the way up. Otherwise, I'm pretty satisfied with the way the deck is looking so far. The very back here, you can see I did not fucking get some of these cut very evenly. I mean, especially if you compare this one to, say, like these two. These two I actually have to notch down a little bit more, and these were the first 2 that I did, and then after that I kind of started freehanding them and thinking, you know, it used to have an 1.5 inch board underneath there. That doesn't mean it needs to be 1.5 inches again, just because I am putting screws in, and it's such a tight fit, the boards weigh so much, etc., etc. There's really no need for it to be a tight fit under this lip on the back. So anyways, I got to do some more notching on the back here. As for the actual screws, these do work pretty good. The only problem is, if you look at the threads here, they kind of got chewed up, and that's just because I was using too small of a drill bit. I found the perfect size drill bit to where it does actually sink the head of the screw below a little bit. I got one right here that's sitting a little bit high, but not much I can do about that because it started to just spin. And obviously I don't want to rip the threads that the bolt or whatever the screw makes in the metal. I don't know where the hell I can get a good quality drill bit. I haven't bought anything name brand. This is just a Ryobi, and the size that it is, of course I can't see it because the chuck ended up wearing off the size. whatever size it is, it's just the perfect size for these screws. So I had to go through my drill bit container and try to find one similar to it and run it through the drill doctor, because as you can see, kind of has the habit of breaking. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say I've had more drill bits break in the last 2 years of buying my own drill bits than in my last 10 years of using them. I don't know what it is suddenly that has changed. Obviously, Ryobi is not the highest quality name brand stuff, but I mean, they break as often as the Harbor Freight stuff. And yeah, there's, you know, some gaps here and there. That's mainly just because this board in particular is pretty bowed out side to side. Of course, when you look at the overall deck, I mean, that really is the only gap on the entire thing. It's just this one spot right up here. And when you haul stuff on a car trailer, you're not worried about small gaps, really. You're more so worried about wood being completely rotten, and there's all the old wood there. And it was a lot worse than I thought once I actually got the boards off. So, yeah. Like I said, I gotta find another drill bit, drill some more holes out. I've just been kind of eyeballing it to get it straight, but I'm gonna basically take a chalk line, tie it down there, snap it, and just drill holes right through. And I'm gonna do one line of screws here, and then I think I'm gonna do another line of screws more towards the back, just because the front, the way this is set up, the way I have this notched, is there is 1.5 inches of wood up to about here, and I smacked these forwards with a hammer until they bottomed out on the actual front of the board here. So they're in there tight up front. There's no need for any screws up front. But like I said, in back, it's going to be kind of sloppy. So I'm thinking there is a runner here, but I don't think I'm going to put any screws there. I think I'm going to put them right here. Just that way it's kind of evenly spaced out. In a perfect world, I would drill every single runner and put screws in every single one. But oh my God, that is such overkill. So I'm going to go ahead and try to find a drill bit here and get that stuff drilled out and get this pretty much reassembled here so I can start working on the brakes. Okay, I got it all welded up here. I hit it with the grinder just to kind of smooth out the weld, and then threw some paint on it. It's looking pretty good. Like I said, I still have to jack it up and take this rear tire off and try to figure out why my electric brakes aren't working. I checked the fuse on the truck for the brake controller, and that was good, although it is one of those kind of janky fuse jumpers, so it might not be making a good connection. But of course, if I hook up power straight to the brakes and they work here, then I'll know it's something on the vehicle side and I'll worry about that. But I figured I'd start on the trailer side since there's a lot less stuff to go wrong, I guess, if that makes any sense. Okay, that's not what I was hoping. I was really hoping it was gonna not work. I'm gonna check the other side. Alright, so I came across one issue that I ended up writing. When I kind of did a quick temporary wire job on this thing, I had basically welded the terminal, the ring terminal, to the actual breakaway flange right here. And obviously you can see it got all rusty because I didn't paint anything. And again, all my welds and crap are getting rusty, but I'm just going to put some cavity wax over that. So I just took another ring terminal and just took a nut and bolt and drilled a hole, ground it, and put some dielectric grease on there. And that should act as the ground. I checked the other side, and same exact thing. I have trailer brakes when the actual the brake wire on the trailer gets 12 volts, and I was grounding just right out here. So of course that wouldn't tell me if I had a ground problem because I'd be supplying it with a ground. So it might have been a grounding issue, either from this or from the terminal from the truck, which I'll show you what I did there in just a second. As for these fenders, you know, I tried to pop it out just good enough with a hammer and a punch, and obviously the paint's completely destroyed, and there's no way you're ever going to get this back totally straight. But that's kind of the thing with owning a trailer. If you don't haul just cars with it, you're going to eventually bend and break shit. That's just, again, part of owning a trailer. More than likely though, I'm gonna wait until these fenders end up rotting out. They are new. Well, I guess I should say new. They were new when the people put them on. I'm gonna wait for them to rot out until I build some removable fenders, because if I had removable fenders, this never would have happened to these fenders. Like I said, it's just because I had to pull a trailer basically up and kind of slide them up the fenders because I didn't have enough blocks to get it up high enough, which of course the other solution would be to just have a deck over trailer. And while those are nice, again, I covered earlier in the video, you just get such a steep angle on some of those things. So I'll show you what I did over on the truck here. All right, so on the truck here, I just covered it in dielectric grease because I'm already finished doing it. But I took this dentist tool. I basically got this huge collection of old dentist tools and picks at an auction, and this one you can kind of see here. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Can't really see it. It's basically a miniature file. So I took and kind of went on each side of the pin and went all the way around with electric cleaner, and then this pin here was already basically down to nothing but copper, and that's the 12-volt auxiliary for charging your battery or what have you. The trailer brake connector, I believe, was this one here, which was the bottom right. That one wasn't corroded. And then this one is the ground, if I remember correctly, and that one wasn't too corroded either. But again, it's just a matter of eliminating all the potential grounding issues and connection issues. I notice here I have a leak on my rear differential, and that's something I eventually am going to worry about. But at the same time, I might end up trading up this truck just because, I don't know, it's got so many little issues, and I got to fix the rust on it before I get rid of it. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up the trailer quickly here and plug it in and try pulling it around the yard and using the brake controller as well as the brake, and seeing if I feel if the trailer brakes are kicking on or not. Another quick little thing I want to show you guys here. I'm fixing up this 2005, I believe, Subaru Outback. Battery's completely stone dead. I mean, not even a dome light on. And it's got an interstate battery in it, which generally those are pretty good batteries. I never buy them, they're too expensive. But I wanted to show you this jumper pack here that I got. This is one that Project Farm did a video on, and this was kind of the one that beat all the other ones. Right now it is at 82% charge, if you can see that there. And I'm just gonna hook this up. Hopefully that's good enough there. And click the little boost button. And we'll see if it'll start a completely dead battery. Yeah, actually had no problem doing that. So yeah, I kind of had some mixed feelings about that jumper pack because I was trying to jump start a Volvo. The thing is, it will jump start a dead battery, but it's not going to help diagnose a starting issue, if that makes any sense. Like, it would crank this thing for maybe 10 seconds before it completely drained flat. And it only brought it down to 80% there, so from 82 to 80, or yeah, from 82 to 80. I don't know how much I trust that though, because when I was trying to jump start that Volvo, it did have a semi-good battery in it. It was just more so to save myself from having to get the battery charger. It would try to start it, and then it would drain and it would flash 0. And if I unplugged it and left it unplugged, then it would read like 64%. But I did fully charge it a couple times now and have used it to jumpstart vehicles like this where they're just completely and totally dead. And it's a hell of a lot easier to carry something around this size than try to lug a battery plus jumper cables plus wrenches, you know, to end up getting all the way to the back. Like, I've probably got, I think, 11 vehicles in the back there, and every one of them is either stone dead battery or missing a battery completely. And I think this actually would start it. Well, yeah, I mean, it would start it without the battery now that I say that, because completely dead, not a single light on anywhere. So it basically jumped it without the help of the battery. I don't know, I'm gonna figure out that battery draining issue later eventually, but you can see the main problem here. The girl ended up putting it in the ditch, and I actually have none of the suspension hooked up. This is like without the strut and anything hooked up, and I can drive it at about 2 miles an hour and it'll rub. So I just have to get the ATV and the Subaru out of the way here so I can get my truck hooked up and diagnose that trailer problem. But if you're looking for a good jump starter, like I said, this is the, let's see here if I can find a model number, the Audu e-Power 155. Like I said, I never really believed in these things. I thought they were total crap, but it's also got a flashlight on top which can do SOS and strobe. And then it's also got inputs and outputs if you want to charge your phone, charge your laptop, charge whatever. Yeah, and like I said, it's a pretty nice little unit. It's a little bit pricey. I think it's around, I think that was like $100 or something like that. Don't quote me on that though. I'll get a recent like price and screenshot of it. But I tried to buy it last winter and they were completely sold out by the time I ended up having the money for one. All right, trailer is pretty much completely done here. Brakes are working the way they're supposed to. Boards are all replaced. Everything's welded up and painted wherever I'd cut. I hauled a 2005 Subaru Outback today and had absolutely no problems whatsoever. Was able to come back 65, 70, set the cruise, and forget it was even behind you sort of deal. So yeah, really all that's left to do to the trailer to make it perfect. I got this cracked lens cover here, which isn't a huge deal. It's kind of one of those things, it's more so cosmetic. I mean, it still works, and I might be able to get a couple years out of it before water gets in there and damages it. Who knows? And then still have to finish wiring up the breakaway box correctly, I guess I should say. And just a couple minor things, but I mean, I've already hauled, I think, God, it must have been like 5 or 6 vehicles with this thing already, maybe even more than that. And I've done that in the last month alone. And hauled a couple loads of the dump with it, with my sides, my stake pocket sides, which I think I'm going to have to modify a little bit just because of where this D-ring ended up. I might just have to cut the center 2x4 out of the front one. I don't know if there's really any way to make that fit in there smoothly. But I'll tell you, like I said, you cannot go wrong with a car trailer. I don't know why I went this long without one. If I had paid $4,000 for this, I would have been happy. I mean, that's how easy it makes hauling everything. With the Subaru that I got today, I threw a battery in it, threw those completely stone dead battery, and threw those jumper packs I had showed a little bit earlier. Threw that on, started it up, drove it right up, had it strapped down with the winch, a chain at the back, and 4 straps on the tires in less than 20 minutes, and I was on the road. And with a car dolly, with disconnecting the drive shaft and doing all that shit, strapping that down, you'd be there for 35-40 minutes, and you wouldn't have, most dollies don't have any sort of brake system at all. Some of them have the surge braking system. But then at that point, you're paying almost $1,000 for the dolly with the surge braking system for a nice one. You can get a cheaper used one for around $600-700 with the surge brakes. Otherwise, if you get just a basic plain Jane dolly like that one there, which is the one I was using, well, actually, yeah, I think, like I said, I think I have 3 or 4 of these car dollies, just because each one kind of has such a major problem. This one, for example, doesn't pivot the way it's supposed to. Normally, it has a rectangle deck, and the deck will pivot. So if you take a turn and you go to the left, the deck will kind of stay straight, and the trailer will kind of pivot underneath it, and then that way the wheels aren't turning and they're not working the straps loose. But basically, the way this is set up, it's supposed to pivot right here. And of course, if it doesn't get used every single day, then it's just going to seize solid. And God, I'm not kidding, I took some hard turns with some, like a 1-ton truck on here, and it just roasted the tires. It didn't even try to budge this thing. Got it cherry red hot with a torch, did the exact same shit, tried quenching it, everything. There is no saving this trailer. Like, it is, thankfully it's permanently seized straight, basically. Otherwise, it's nice. It has the pivoting deck. Basically, you release that pin there, and then it'll flop down to the ground. But getting back to what I was saying, the car dollies definitely have their purpose. They have their application. And especially if you don't have I say you shouldn't even be towing a car trailer this size without a 3/4 ton or heavier truck. I know a lot of guys try to do it with their 1/2 tons, and I don't know, it kind of depends on the year and the model and everything. This thing has got a couple, I think it's got a helper spring in it right on the bottom there, and with it fully loaded with a vehicle on there, it almost sits flat. So I mean, this was kind of designed to haul something like this, and this could also haul an equipment trailer with an excavator on it, you know, a mini excavator or a skid steer or whatever, and it would still do it. Like I said, with the car on here today, I was going 70, sitting at like 2,300 RPMs or something, and getting about 11-12 miles a gallon. But you know, if you have a vehicle that will haul a car trailer, you just need to start setting aside the money for one, because seriously, you cannot go wrong. It's not just for hauling cars. It's, I mean, literally, this is a flatbed, a pickup box, anything you'd ever need to haul, it will haul, you know, short of, like I said, excavators and skid steers. I mean, yeah, like I said, I just wish I'd gotten this 2-3 years ago, just with all the headaches that it has saved me. I'm going to go ahead and post the measurements here at the end of the video, and I might do a little kind of a write-up of a picture drawing of kind of where this was made, or what the dimensions are, and what the kind of the blueprint is for making your own, if you wanted to make one like this. like I said, I wouldn't bother getting one with the beaver tail unless you're going to be hauling really long stuff. I'm going to measure this truck and see if this truck, for example, would fit on here, because this is a 99 or 98 crew cab with a 6.5 foot box, I believe. So the only thing that gets longer than this is a crew cab dually with a 8-foot box. Beyond that, you're not hauling anything longer than that, just period. You're not. And if you are, it's going to be one of those weird ass vans that seats 16 people or something like that. And at that point, I don't know why you'd ever even haul one of those things. They're so goddamn ugly, but whatever. So, like I said, I'm going to quick get some measurements and see if this truck would fit on here, for example, with this box. Because, of course, if this box wasn't here, you could get the front wheels up to about here or so. Kind of the limiting factor right now on this trailer is the box. You know, if I'd moved that box 2-3 feet further ahead, then I would have got 2 or 3 feet more space. But like I said, I already barely jackknifed the trailer and dented this in, and it didn't even make a noise when I did it. You know, normally I am really cautious about jackknifing stuff, but you know, shit happens. All right, so I just measured the truck here. Basically, bumper to bumper, it is 19 feet, and the front tire sits at about 2 feet. So the front tire would sit right about here on the car trailer. And that's basically to the front of the tape measure. Here is where the front bumper would be. So you'd be pretty close to this, but you still wouldn't be hitting it. And of course, if you had a shorter toolbox, for example, I only really needed one to where this kind of notch is here going straight across. I didn't need one this tall, but I got a really good deal on this one, so of course I bought it. But if that was going to be an issue, you could easily put like a 2x4 or a couple 4x4 blocks underneath the front tires just to get it over the toolbox. I'm not advising to haul things like that, but it's kind of one of those deals. If you had to, you could. So anyways, the front tire would be sitting right about here, and then the rear tire would be sitting, where's 15 foot, right here. So your rear tire would still be on solid ground, and then you'd have another 3 feet, or not 3 feet, sorry, 4 feet past that. So 19 feet would be right here. So I mean, you'd be pushing the damn limit of, you know, hauling this. You could, though, you know, like I said, the tire would be sitting on the wood. The center of the tire, mind you, not the back of it. The center point of the tire would be sitting on the wood at about here. And so, you know, it'd basically be contacting to here, and then it'd just be overhanging. The tire might hang out back to here. And then you got that extra few feet back to 19 feet here. So, like I said, you could haul a crew cab 6.5 foot 3/4 ton truck on this trailer. I'm not saying weight wise you could. Like I said, I'm just saying length wise. Knowing me, I absolutely would haul it, because these trailers are underrated just for liability reasons. They're not going to say it's rated for 10,000 if the axles snap in half at 10,000. They're going to go down to where it's safe, which is 7,000. And like I said, the way I was taught was you take the weight of the trailer minus the capacity, or the capacity minus the weight of the trailer just on its own, and then that's how much additional you can haul. But I'll tell you, if a good deal came up on a 3/4 ton, I already got the donor truck for this, so I'm not going to be hauling another one. But if something did come up, then I would go out and buy it, and I would haul it on this trailer if I had to. And as sketchy as it sounds, if one of the hubs fell off, I mean, it's not a huge deal to swap one of those things on the side of the road. Of course, it wouldn't be great going 70, and I wouldn't be going 70 if I was hauling something that heavy. I'd be going more like 45 and taking the back roads. But like I said, it's kind of use it at your discretion. Well, that sounds great. Use it at your discretion, kind of. You want to get a trailer that's overkill for what you're going to be doing, but you don't want to get a 10,000 pound axle trailer for hauling cars. Like I said, I don't have any heavy equipment. All I do is haul cars for a living. I don't haul them for a living. I work on them for a living. So all I'm really hauling is cars. So this made sense to me. Like I said, if the rare blue moon occasion once or twice a year where I have to haul something over the limit of the trailer, I'll probably do it if I'm not going that far. If something comes up where it's like a dozer, there's no chance in hell I'd ever try hauling that on this trailer. That's just, I'm not even going to entertain that idea. But yeah, and as for brands, it's kind of, I mean, every trailer is really built the same. I don't care who you are. It's literally just comes down to the quality of the weld and the name brand. I mean, these fenders, you get them at any trailer supply shop, and they're all going to cost between $40 and $80 a piece. And the axles, kind of the same deal. If you buy better quality bearings, then you suddenly have the better quality axle. And the lights and all that stuff, I mean, these are literally just stake pockets welded onto some angle iron and some C-channel on the bottom for the frame. It's not like buying a Ford and a Chevy. It's like buying a Chevy versus a GMC. You know, it's just a different name. Very, 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 very minuscule differences. Obviously, I would have preferred a tilt trailer, but my God, you're talking big money for one of those things. I mean, those go for $4,500 with rotted decks, and you could, in theory, convert this to a tilt trailer, but is it worth it? Probably not. Like I said, with those stowaway ramps on the bottom, it's not that steep of a slope, and I really haven't come across anything that had an issue getting up unless it was a lowered vehicle, or like I said, that Fusion that I hauled on the dolly, and that had 4 flat tires and really weak saggy suspension. That would have still pulled up on here. So yeah, enough rambling on here about trailers. Like I said, I might post another video here of me redoing a couple wiring things and making a few more modifications to it, but just for a basic redoing the deck. And what else did I do? Redoing the deck and the winch box, which are going to basically be 2 separate videos, and I'll try to narrow this one down to like 20 minutes. Probably have like an hour and a half of footage, but that's mainly just me rambling. So